Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Hey, this is Christian Cardamone. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Build Better Blueprint. Today, folks, I've got a real treat for you. A buddy of mine, Mr. Luke Kolk. Luke is the owner and CEO of Kolk Homes, a short-term rental management company specializing in co-hosting. A former police officer, Luke transitioned full-time into the short-term rental industry in 2022, quickly building a thriving business alongside his wife, Beth, and their dedicated team. Today, they successfully manage over 50 properties across North Carolina, Arizona, and the Florida markets. Luke's journey began with rental arbitrage, scaling to over 30 units in his first year. He was quickly recognized and joined as a coach in a program geared towards beginners entering in the rental arbitrage space. Recognizing the long-term potential and scalability of the co-hosting model, he pivoted his business in 2023, and over the past 4 years, he and his team have had more than 120 units come through their portfolio, whether through arbitrage, co-hosting, or wholesaling. Luke is passionate about growth and education in the short-term rental space, and he's dedicated to scaling his co-hosting business while sharing his expertise through coaching and networking with fellow operators. So, Luke, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
That's great, man. I appreciate the intro. That's pretty well thought out, but I know I sent it to you, but it's great stuff. Thank you.
Well, you've got it. It's a good start, man. And you're definitely a solid dude. And just as a disclaimer to everybody, you are actually the manager, the short-term rental manager for a couple of my short-term rentals. And we've been nothing but pleased with you and your team, man. You guys are awesome. Have like the latest technology. Seem to really just, I got like 3 5-star reviews in the last couple of days. I was stoked. Out of the gate, just thank you for what you and Beth are doing for us.
I appreciate the time and the service we can do for you, and hopefully we can continue on and make those other properties thrive. And if you got more, we got you covered.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I love it. So speaking of that, let's start off there because that's how you and I met initially. Is you were a short-term rental arbitrager, and for those of you who don't know what arbitrage is, I'll let you explain because you can probably do it better than me. But you reached out to us and quote unquote arbitraged our Wrightsville Beach triplex. So you rented the whole thing, and then subsequently you did Airbnb out of it, and you kept the spread between the rent, the long-term rent you paid us, and you kept the difference between that and the short-term income, and then you had all the expenses to operate that business. It's a great model. It's great. We did it for 2 years. It was rock solid for us. Tell us about what arbitrage is, how you started, why you started with that, and then what that experience has been like so the folks can learn a little bit about you and where you started.
Yeah, definitely. So arbitrage in a nutshell is we go to homeowners like yourself, we pay them a certain rent, and with your permission, we post on our Airbnb. And like you said, we take the delta from the rent and then we're getting a nightly rate. So to me, it was very profitable at the start. I feel like it was all the rage maybe 5 years ago, and it definitely bared a lot of fruit for us. I was working as a police officer, needing some extra income and things like that. So stumbled upon like an Instagram ad actually about how to do it. And I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense, and quickly jumped into that course. And we did 30 units our first year, as the intro said. And after about 4 to 5 units, that's when I quit my job and really doubled down on it. But it's funny, when you first start, you don't understand the whole seasonality of everything. And you're like, wow, I'm making all this money and it's in peak season, right? And then September, October comes and your income gets cut in half. So that was kind of prompting me to do more of it. I was like, all right, if it's working, can I get them in other markets and things like that? So we started in Wilmington. We've moved from Jacksonville, Florida, and like Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona. So to me, that really like set us off. And once we became pretty decent at that, people started coming to us asking like, hey, could you co-host or manage our unit for us? And while we initially didn't think it was as profitable, we quickly realized like you don't have a lot of the overhead expenses. The scalability of it is like you don't need any money to get started really. So to me, that's what really kind of started us to pivot the model. But yeah, here we are. I mean, we've done, like I said, over 120 deals in this past 4 years, from changing the portfolio 3, 4, 5 times. And I feel like we've dived into a few other areas, but it's been great so far.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you were like, I mean, it's totally random. I had another guest on here a while back who was in law enforcement, and then now he's in the real estate industry as well. It's crazy to think because that's 180 degrees from law enforcement. So did you think this was possible when you're like farting around on your iPhone one day and then you're on Instagram and next thing you know, you pack up the vest and the gun and now you're a real estate guru?
It's so funny. I feel like as cops, normally we all talk the same. We all make about the same. And like, no one's really thinking outside the box, but it's not until you go to the meetups or meet people like yourself. They're like, hey, this is possible. Like you can live this other life, and you have these young kids making all this money. Like, Like, it's the real risk is not trying anything, right? Like, you might as well put yourself out there. Arbitrage was that kind of like gateway drug of like, I'm not really having to own the asset just yet. The homeowner's paying large maintenance. So like maybe I could dabble with that. And I'm the type of guy, like, I don't necessarily need to see all the details. I kind of have that big vision and I'll just kind of run that way and we'll figure out as it goes. So initially, no, I didn't think it was going to work. But after we got 4 of them, we landed one landlord that said, hey, I have 7 properties. Do you want those? So I was like, okay, like here's the chance to take a risk. We had some credit cards and things like that we kind of maxed out to make sure we funded them. But I feel like that's a common story for a lot of agents or real estate professionals are like, they kind of went all in and then it panned out a little bit later on.
Yeah. Well, dude, I think that's the moral of the story is anything you do all in likely will pan out. I mean, if you came across an ad for solar or for roofing or something and you put the same amount of effort, intensity, and drive into it, I think you'd be just as successful. You just happen to be short-term rentals and that worked out. Obviously you guys, and I know Beth, kudos to her. She has a great like eye for design and stuff like that. So it's a perfect like complement for what you guys do, because this is definitely the kind of business that requires some acumen with like finance, but also is hospitality and communication and design. So it's like, for me, dude, it's a lot. And I love that guys like you are out there in the space, because I love real estate to the core, but I recognize like where my strengths are and it's not in that wheelhouse. And so to have folks like you guys available, that's what makes this ecosystem work, right? There's so many different ways to make money in real estate.
And thankfully, like, I couldn't do it without my wife, Beth. I mean, she's the true integrator. I'm more of the visionary. Like, I say, hey, we're going to do this. And then she says, well, that's probably not going to work, but we balance each other out, right? It's like, I have to be realistic, but she can kind of balance that. And we've made it work really well. And we have an amazing team behind us as well. So to me, we're blessed.
Yeah. So do that. Tell us about like the composition of your team. You guys said you're managing right now. You guys have 50 units under management right now.
Yeah. We've been as high as 70 some units. We hit a point where we were like, all right, we probably need to cut down on the smaller units with the homeowners, a little bit more of a headache. It's like, all right, let's dial back to then be able to grow on those larger units with better landlords. Quickly, the breakdown, I'm on the sales side. My wife does the onboarding of the units. We have 2 managers, Jack and Kelsey. One does like day-to-day operations. The other's like the financial side of things. And then we have 3 VAs in El Salvador that kind of help that hamster wheel, if you will, through guest messaging, maintenance, cleaning, and pricing, stuff like that.
Okay. And so you've got you 2, and then you have 2 boots on the ground here, and then you have 3. So you have a staff of 5 plus you guys, the principal. So you've got 7 people running this operation.
Yeah. And that was a huge, obviously, I don't know if you read the whole book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, but
Yeah,
that kind of opened our eyes a little bit of like, all right, like, while I think movement isn't always progress, and I'm like, okay, how can we up the task? And actually, I'm better suited for just doing sales and networking with other people. So once we did that and help with a few other people and a couple masterminds, like, all right, let's break down that work chart. What does that look like? And that actually made it super efficient for us. And now I went from working 50 hours a week to maybe 20 hours a week.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. I love Dan Martell. He's awesome. His message, the way he communicates, it like resonates with me. But it's like so frustrating, because when you get a book like that or a model or like a coach like that, and they help you just understand, everything is so freaking simple, dude. You have to have the playbook. If you don't have the playbook, you're figuring it out on your own, you're scrambling. But the second you get that and you open it up, it's like, oh, well, it's just moving this here, this person here. It's like, it's frustratingly simple, but it's nice once you get it, right?
And to me, obviously, SOPs and things like that, just having it all documented, because while we've had VAs in the past and like they aren't really working out, what's going on, but I'm a firm believer of you have to give people the tools they need to be successful. So it's like, if you're not doing your job of documenting it with Loom videos and really finding out what your people enjoy and what they like, you're not really building a team. So to me, both sides of the equation really matter.
So what softwares are you guys using right now? What have you used that you don't like, and what are you using now that you do like, for someone who maybe was looking at getting into this space?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. So the core couple, we have HostAway for our property management software that kind of encompasses a lot. We have Turno for cleaning. That's going to sync the scheduling and making sure the cleaners know when and what house to be at what time, and submitting photos. We have door locks like Schlagen Code. Those are great because the batteries last probably 10 times as long as some of the other ones we've done. Some other ones that people might not have heard of are getclearing.co. That one's gonna, as Airbnb pays out, they give you in a lump sum, but that software will delegate and break down the charges and everything in real time. So it saves the bookkeeper a bunch of time to be able to categorize and know what is what. And
Nice.
that sync up with QuickBooks as well, just for our accounting and bookkeeping. Other than that, those are probably our main core ones. We use Price Labs for pricing. A lot of people see that as a set it and forget it, but that's more of a software. It's not a strategy. So I just encourage people to really dive into that. That's probably 30% of the business right there, is understanding how pricing works and the pacing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between like a DIY person and also like a professional like yourself, is getting in there, and it's something you have to touch every day, right? Or every couple of days, like dynamic pricing to make sure that you're staying competitive. It's not, when I first started doing Airbnb with my home years ago, I would go stay on my sailboat. I'd rent my house out for the weekends and go stay on my sailboat and then come back Monday through Wednesday. But I would just set the price for the whole calendar and and that's it. I don't pay my mortgage. It was sweet. But now, like these prices change, what, like daily, hourly? How does that work?
Just about. I mean, to me, I always try and break it up into 3, maybe 4 tiers. You have like design and staging, like how well is the house built out, maybe some location. You have algorithm stuff, which is, are all the boxes filled out? Do you have photos in order? Are your titles like SEO, like lined up well? Anything Airbnb, like that game that they play. And then you have pricing as that last third. So to me, with pricing, yeah, it changes daily. You're in there having to see. I always like to say, like, you want to be last booked in the summer, but first booked in the winter. So you're kind of changing the strategy a little bit there, because as demand shrinks or increases, as the homes are getting soaked up, you can now get a much higher rate, depending upon the pacing of the unit. Like a larger unit, obviously, most people are booking those 3, 4, 5 months out. So you have to prepare that far out rather than waiting to last minute. No one's really booking a 6-bedroom in 2 days or a week. So really, depending upon the unit size and just the market itself, so many people think it's going to do what it did last year. And while that's possible, and hopefully it should do similar, markets do shift and things do change, and you might need to do certain upgrades, because the standard of Airbnb is definitely rising right now.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think, is the intimidating for someone on the outside. Is part of me thinks it's like a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing if you don't fully optimize your listing. And the competition is so fierce now. Like I wouldn't get into the game, and I'm fortunate. I think our Wrightsville Beach property is primo. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that checks all the boxes. But if you don't have something that is like top notch, then you're just going to get wiped out by the competition, because there's always someone who's just getting into the game who wants to spend all the money and have the nicest property. Granted, once they book, you're next in line. But what advice do you give to folks that come to you that have like a B or a C class property, even if it's in a good location? You know, how do you help them optimize it?
Yeah, it's tough. I normally tell people when they're getting in the game, go on either extreme. Go the super high end luxury stuff, the 4, 5, 6 bedrooms with all the amenities, and go crazy. While that's not always possible for some people, let's say they're doing arbitrage, I'd also say maybe go 1 or 2 bedroom, because that one's going to be a higher turn and burn volume game, while this one's more luxury. It's the people in the middle that are really getting squeezed. But if you just happen to be the person with that 3, maybe 4 bedroom that's not too intense, I would say, hey, it's the small things that matter. And how can we add up those 1%? Like, do you have the small amenities like French press coffee, a dedicated workstation? Could you get a bucket of paint and make some accent walls here and there? And some of that can be fairly cheap, maybe a couple $1,000, and you can really change a unit around, along with the amenity side of things. So going on Airbnb and see their whole list of amenities. What cheap ones can I check off? Maybe it's a hammock. Maybe it's, like I said, the dedicated workstation. Those things are cheap, but will give you that boost in the algorithm that can help you out.
Okay, so let's do like a little example for someone listening. If they just have a property and it's vacant, they're like, should I do? Everyone's talking about Airbnb or midterm rentals and like travel nurses, or should I just put like a long-term tenant in there, set it and forget it? Give us like the pros and cons, because my thought has always been, I mean, they both can produce great results. One is depending on how active or passive you want to be. And then I always tell folks just on like the nose, like Airbnb, short, midterm rentals, they'll make you more money, guaranteed, but you just have to do more work. And subsequently the property gets more exposure to it. It gets more impact to the property. So things, they can age, they can wear faster because you've got more boots on the ground every day. Yeah. So give us like some pros and cons and what you would tell someone who just calls you and says, hey man, I got this cool property. What do I do with it?
It's funny. Normally people like to double down, like, I am this SDR person or I am this long-term person. Part of me says you can be a little bit of both. And there's other avenues that people aren't thinking about, such as insurance space, where there's companies like ALE Solutions that you can get on. And if someone's house burns down or they need to put someone in there for 3 to 8 months or whatnot, or even longer, they're going to pay a super high premium because it's insurance. And we've all heard of traveling nurses, but like, maybe you've heard of the app called Furnish Finder, but have you heard of nationally known companies that are agencies that will pay top dollar, like AYA or Noman? Because if you think an individual is going to try and get the cheapest price possible, but if they went through an agency and the agency booked it, they're going to pay top dollar. So if you were trying to play that midterm strategy, or I've heard people going as far as doing government contracts, like you can, there's websites you can go on to bid those, but that's kind of the middle ground. Obviously, we've kind of jumped into the STR space a lot more. And to me, I just think the cash flow is far superior. And I think that's why people like it. But if you were to take this back 5 years ago, you could put any house on Airbnb and it would do well. But nowadays, because the standard's so high, they're thinking like it was in COVID. And I think people are getting a rude awakening of like, all right, it hit slow season. I'm not making nearly as much as I would have. So it kind of depends on your risk tolerance, right? It's like if you're just trying to get the steady check and you're okay making a little bit lower, sure. But if you're trying to quit your job, your 9 to 5, and you need to make an extra 5, 10K a month, co-hosting and or like STRs are probably the way to go.
And do you think, when I hear that, I think you're spot on. So it's definitely your risk profile, and maybe you can do both. Like I do both. I have long-term and short-term and mid-term. So I think I like the diversification of it, because it's a cash flow play for me. So like you said before, when we started, it ebbs and flows. And so like in the summer, you're like, dude, I am rich. And then in the winter, you're like, dude, I am poor. So it's definitely takes like some management there, because not everyone wants to come to the beach in January. Granted, our market, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have gotten to a point, or we're at a point critically where we're starting to see like the seasonality wane a little bit, because we're growing so fast and we're becoming more of a year-round market here. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree that the shoulder seasons are definitely kind of splitting out a little bit. So to me, while as long as you're okay dropping the rates and understand the occupancy might drop a little bit, I think so many people try and hold too long to the rate that they're at. And it's now entering the shoulder in the off season. So as long as you play that game effectively, I think you can stay booked fairly well. As long as it's not at the crazy high rates that you were getting, I think you can still get pretty booked up.
Yeah. Cool. And do you think, is it better to be shorter stays, or like, do you target like 1 or 2 night stays, or do you guys like the longer term stays, and why?
So obviously by nature, we like longer stays just because it's less turnover, typically less wear and tear on the home. But to me, the real money is made in those 1 to 2 to 3 night stays. A bulk of people booking on Airbnb are booking for 3 nights here in Wilmington. And while 1 night stays definitely get a bad rap of like, are there parties, are going to have damages and things like that, we just find that to be such a small percentage, and it's worth Airbnb having air cover and things like that we can get paid out for. And we've had plenty of examples where homeowners didn't allow 1 night. So they were only doing 2 night minimums, and they did decent for sure. But when I compare that to the people that allowed 1 night, they might get 5 more bookings a month. And that could be $500 or $1,000 a month that they're just missing out on because of their fear of a party or something that realistically isn't going to happen.
Yeah. So what are the biggest things that could happen that you would warn folks of? Is like, okay, you could have a party and the cops could come and they could trash the place. I have had experience in the past where like some guy books it and then some other person shows up. Like, what do you tell folks to kind of get them comfy with, like, okay, this is what, in a perfect world, this is what happens. We have great guests. They take care of the place. They leave 5-star reviews. You get rich. Yay. We all win. What could go wrong? And what have you seen? Maybe like an example, or like a horror story or something.
It's funny. We have one of them. It was on Park Avenue. We had a strip of townhomes that we were renting for arbitrage at the time. And long story short, they like weren't checking out. The cleaner's like, hey, they're not leaving. And then the cleaner's like, actually, I think I see like a U-Haul in the back. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, are they like moving out all my stuff? Like, what's going on here? And so then I get the call. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to head over there. At the time, I'm working as a police officer. I was like, all right, I'll get the boys out there. We'll make it happen, right?
Yeah.
End up knocking on the door. Like, yeah, we'll leave. So then I'm like waiting in the back or in the front of the house in my truck saying, hey, you guys got 10 minutes before we have to kick you out. And they're like, yeah, no problem. I'm noticing all like the windows are kind of have cloths on them. All the curtains are closed. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So the U-Haul is in the back. I kind of poked around there. I was like, okay, I don't think they're taking many items, or maybe it's their items, as long as I'm not seeing couches go out, right? And
yeah.
Long story short, the U-Haul leaves, another car leaves behind it. I get the tag and I call it out to my buddies. Like, I'm off duty at the time, but I'm like, hey, just run this tag for me, see what happens. And it ends up being like a stolen vehicle. They have like all this drug history. And I'm like, hey, you might want to get someone over here, right? So they leave. I don't think much of it. Cleaner goes in there. There were some drugs, but I was like, hey, we can get it handled. We just clean it up. And I get a call from that same buddy that I was like, hey, go check on him. Apparently they got a chase on the highway in the U-Haul but then they like went out of jurisdiction and ended up like losing them. And then so they escaped. And I was like, this is something out of a movie here. Like
It is, dude.
But long story short, yeah, drugs are probably the biggest one, but cleaners always freak out. But to me, we clean it up, toss it out, and keep it moving. I think a lot of people, they have one or two STRs and it's their baby and they want their house to be completely protected, which I can relate to. But I also say, hey, it's a business. Things are going to happen. As long as there's the insurance in place and we screened our tenants correctly. Nowadays, we have like at checkout, if they have a booking confirmation, they get that message. A lot of our homes have like a link that they have to click on and fill it out, like essentially why they're there, potentially put their license and everything in there. So we could run a background check. And if they don't fill out that form, they don't get the code to the door. So to me, it's a little bit of a safety check there, making sure we know who's in the home and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great, man. I think that's so important because these days it's so easy to just download an app and secure like potentially like $1 million house for a night with maybe like a bunk credit card or something like that. So it's cool to have that extra layer of like security because I know like Airbnb has insurance and stuff like that for all these like worst case scenarios. But in the meantime, you still got to deal with it. And granted, you can fix anything with money. It's still like if that is your house or your second home, to have it like desecrated like that is it's terrifying. So I know I had one time I went out, I was on my boat for the week. This guy rented it for a week and then I came back and he wasn't stopped responding to me at checkout. And I would clean my own house after because I would go in and, you know, sometimes they would like leave beers in the fridge and I would be soaked, you know, but this kid was like passed out on the couch and I could see him through the blinds. He was just laying there. I thought he was dead for a while. I finally like pounding on the door and I had to like physically get him out. I'm not like a big guy, you know, and I'm not like a tough guy either, but that was like my one story where I was like, dude, you got to get out. Like checkout was like 4 hours ago. But he was just like stoned and hammered and hungover. And I was like, all right, buddy, come on. Like, here we go. I think the cleaners are like the unsung heroes of this industry because they walk into it's every day. It's like, you don't know what you're going to walk into.
And we feel for them a lot. And obviously, I feel like the cleaners in the area have bound together and prices are definitely going way high on like what cleaning costs. Like we've had beach houses where they're charging $700 a foot. I'm like, this shouldn't be a thing. You're only in there for 5-6 hours, but I do relate with them and we try and hopefully find hourly cleaners a lot of times. Maybe they're $20 to $30 an hour and making sure we're giving them bonuses and just respecting what they do because they do a lot and we're appreciative. That whole industry is very interesting with cleaners. So you definitely have to pick the right ones and vet them as well. We've had some horror stories there as well. So making sure you're vetting your cleaners is a big one too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's been my experience. It seems like there's some reputable companies that are very expensive, but they've been around, they stand the test of time. And then not everybody, but a lot of the folks below that, they can be like rock stars for like 6 months or a year, but then they like move on to, they just evaporate or they disappear or they ghost. It's a very weird business, I guess, because it seems like they're the best until they're gone or then they become the worst. It's probably like that in a lot of industries, but that's just been my experience with cleaners, man. But they're definitely the hero. Do you think that they're the MVP in this like equation or what is the most valuable player in a team like yours?
That's a good one. Obviously, they each have their own value. Like to me, the onboarding is the most intensive, takes the most critical thinking. So someone like my wife, like getting someone fully documented, fully involved is huge. The cleaners obviously deal with the most just like BS on a day to day, I would imagine. But then the VAs are kind of rock stars too, because they're dealing with all the crazy guest inquiries and up till 12 o'clock at night trying to handle certain issues. So I think they each kind of play the role. I don't know if I could give the crown to just one.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer because I think you're right. It takes like a village to do this and to do it well. So yeah, I mean, you guys earn your money. So tell me, like, if someone was trying to get into hosting, like what you're doing, because you're coaching folks now to do this. Tell us about that and kind of what role you're playing in that and in what arenas or platforms you're using.
Yeah, definitely. So on the coaching side, when I was doing arbitrage, I got invited to coach for a company called B&B Formula. I don't even know if they're around, but at the time they were doing really well and it was arbitrage was on the up. So coached for them for I think a few years. And then after that, we kind of dove into co-hosting and started our own little small school group. Not really a coaching program, more so like, hey, here's all the documents, templates, and videos that we would have wished we had growing from 5 to 50 listings. So it's not necessarily a beginner's course, but anyone that's trying to scale with teams and systems, like we have all that documented for a pretty cheap price. And then I help out a little bit with STR Secrets. I'm not a technical coach for them, but they kind of pass me referrals here and there, and I do the same for them. So that kind of got me in the coaching space, but I understand that there's a lot of voices out there and so many people say, hey, do it this way, do it that way. And we just wanted to build one thing that was like, hey, here's what worked for us, and I'm sure it can work for you. So that's why we ended up building that school group. But what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Well, I mean, I saw the reason that you and I reconnected on this for this podcast was because I was targeted this ad for the Bigger Pockets conference, and I saw your mug in the center. I'm like, holy shit, man, Luke is big time. This is awesome. I was stoked. I was like, that's my property manager. I was proud, So tell me about that. And like, is that something that you're trying to do more of, to get out in front of bigger audiences, to offer coaching or direct one-on-one mentorship, or tell me about that?
Yeah, we're in this middle of like, we're debating like, hey, the opportunity came up and I was like, hey, worst case scenario, we do it once or twice, maybe sell a few school group things. That's great. I do enjoy the coaching side though. So while we don't have a big course, the BP Con reached out to a buddy of mine that was in Denver, Colorado, I believe. And they asked him, at the time he has a bunch of high-end luxury Airbnbs, but he doesn't do a lot of co-hosting. And they asked him, do you know anyone? He thought of me, thankfully. And so now we're going to go in Vegas, October 4th through 6th, I believe. Make that happen. But if someone wants to get involved, and that's kind of what my whole speech is on in October, of like, how does someone get involved with almost no money? And while I think co-hosting is one of the two ways of it's true no money down, like you have co-hosting and then probably wholesaling would be another one that you don't really need much. So to me, it's getting involved in three areas. First, Facebook groups of markets you want to be involved in or are currently involved in, and be the guy that provides so much value that they're like, hey, like, we probably need to hop on a phone call. Or if someone has a post that's complaining about occupancy, revenue, or just their listing in general, I say, hey, post your listing below. I'm sure I can help out. Then I shoot them a DM and say, hey, I found 10 things on your listing that could use improvement. Are you open to a 10-minute phone call? And that's kind of what gets them on the call. And then I can give them as much information, but then I'll sell the execution of it, because so many people don't have the time. That's why they're looking around. They're asking for help. And I got in a very good rhythm there, closing people time after time, just using that kind of method, whatever you want to call it, Facebook method or whatnot. And the other two is just real estate agents like yourself. You've referred me one or two people, and then I have probably 100 other agents. And so probably 3 to 5 times a month, I get a phone call. Hey, I have this person, but it's because I've done 6 months or a year worth of just value, or I've proven myself in experience, or I have a track record of these other things. So if someone's wanting to get started, it's through Facebook, through real estate agents. And then I'll also add one more of cleaners. They were a great way to get involved because they're already cleaning for high-end vacation homes. And they're like, hey, if I throw you a $500 referral, like, are you open to passing me the owner's contact? And if it closes, I'll get you paid out.
That's awesome. That's a great. So that is kind of your blueprint to tell someone, if they want to get in the game without a lot of money, this is the pathway to start generating leads and interest in business immediately.
For sure. I think so many people think about step 30. It's like, we need to get you a deal first. Yes, we can talk pricing. Yes, we can talk automation, but you need that deal first. So yeah, spend a first month getting educated on what makes a good listing, how to actually provide value to people. And then reaching out through Facebook agents and cleaners is probably your best bet.
Nice. Okay. What's your opinion on this? Because I guess I'm kind of split. There's all these things in real estate, like now with creative financing and no money down and wholesaling and stuff like this. Like, there's all these paths to doing things without any money, subject to, and I think that's great for people that should be doing it, but that also can create a path for people that have like no business doing it, just because it's like, this is the easy button. I want to hit this, no money down, seller financing 100%, co-hosting without, arbitrage. Like, do you think everybody has business doing this? Because like you said before, the information is out there, but the execution, that's what separates the men from the boys, or where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, I would say performance definitely matters. And what I mean by that is, if you don't have any homes right now, you don't have business going buying $1 million boutique hotel or trying to get all this stuff. Like, is it possible? Yes. Do we see extreme cases of that happening? Yes. But for the average Joe Schmo trying to get out of their 9 to 5, like, why don't you pick up 1 or 2 co-host contracts, see if you even like it, see if you're good at it. And then if that makes sense, sure, start getting involved with other people that can either show you the ropes, or you could partner up with someone that's really done it before. Because we did our first seller financing deal on 8 co-host contracts in Arizona last month. Like, it was $180K. We put $80K down through private money, and then we seller financed the other $100K for the next 3 years. But it's because we had a whole host of other properties that we could back it on if we needed. If they all tanked, it would still work out. And then the numbers and the P&Ls that they showed were very promising. And to me, it still made a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you guys are growing like organically you're out there farming for new leads for referrals, and then you're out actually doing acquisitions and looking for other books of business?
For sure. I think while so many people go and diversify off the rip, it's like, hey, let's get really good at this one thing. Once we hit our cash flow goal number, then hey, we'll start to diversify and start to buy more real estate. But at the time, I'm like, hey, let's just get to 100 plus units, and that will solve a lot of the oxygen of cash flow will start to come in a lot more, and we can play it as we wish after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that kind of segues into my next question. So what's the plan? What's the goal? What's the vision for you guys in the next 2 to 4 or 5 years for Kolk Homes?
So I see it going one of two ways. And we also have a curveball coming in Thanksgiving. So my wife's pregnant. She'll be due in 4 months. So
Yeah,
might kind of
nice.
change
Congrats.
a few things there.
Yeah.
But for the next 4 months, it's, hey, it's pedal to the metal. Let's see what we can do to get close to that 100 unit mark.
Mhm.
That would put us well beyond our cash flow goal. And to me, we could settle with the kid and everything and see where we lie. I do think the next logical progression is buying a boutique hotel. And I'm already kind of speaking to a few people in one unit in Colorado right now. If that works out, great. If not, no worries. I'm just trying to dabble in that field a little bit and get used to speaking that language because it's a little bit different than STRs. The other play is right now there's a private equity firm that is looking to take 30 people, 30 management companies, wrap them all up into one, and then sell for a much higher multiple. So I was approached by a friend of mine that we're in the space, and he has 400 some units. And so we're in cahoots now. And then within the next 3 to 5 months, if we can package it up, we might sell for a pretty high multiple. And that would just checkmate us to our goals there too.
Yeah, dude, that's the craziest thing. When people understand how private equity works,
It's insane.
it's insane. It's like, and just like the quick one too is like, if you have your business and you're netting $100,000 a year, it could sell just on its own for a multiple of like maybe 2 to 3. So maybe your business is worth $300,000, but you roll it up with another bundle of other management companies, and just by virtue of the volume of the number of units you guys have, and then your NOI can go up to, say it's $1 million, then it might trade on like an 8 or 10 multiple. So it's just like it compounds. And when I learned about that, I was like, this is like magic. It's
real money.
crazy.
I mean, it's the whole Cody Sanchez and all those guys. It's like, it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, to me, I'll do what it takes to get in that room and get involved and sure, buy a business. But like, that's what the real money's made at, is the exit. So I'm like, why don't we just do that? Because so many people buy their single family homes, and sure, that's great for equity and stuff like that. But like, the cash flow is what's really going to keep you moving in your day to day. And having these massive exits along with still getting paid out, like it blew my mind. I'm like, it's worth diving into there a little bit to at least get the exposure. And if it happens, great. If not, hey, at least I got to learn.
Yeah, well, totally. The moral of the story there is just, in order to do that, though, you have to run a very sharp and successful operation. So it's not like, yeah, I want to build this big and then like flip it into private equity and roll it up and sell it for a 10x multiple. It's like, no, you have to be like an ace. You have to have crystal clear vision, and to get there, your books have to be spotless. And then you've earned the right to be part of a roll up and then exit and dispose of like that. So like there's light at the end of the tunnel if that's the way. But I'm with you. Like, the recurring revenue is the most important piece of this puzzle to success long term, I think, because equity is just like a number in space. It's great until the day you sell it, and then when you do sell it, then you've got to deal with the consequences of the sale, whatever that may be, or a reinvestment in exchange or something like that. So you never really get to touch it, but it's just a big number that also could frankly just evaporate in any other world as well. So it's like the recurring revenue is what keeps the lights on day to day, and that's what you get to spend and enjoy. So that's a good vision, man. I like that.
Yeah, we're pumped on it. And I don't know, what was it? Warren Buffett's like, we got 3 rules: never run out of cash, never run out of cash, and never run out of cash. I'm like, copy that. Like, let's build just a machine that's just truly going to pump it that way. And that'll set us up. Because if you never run out of cash, like, you can still play the game. Never fully bet all your eggs in one basket. Because if it drops, then hey, you're up creek without a paddle.
Yeah, totally, man. Look, he also said, I think when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yeah.
That's the play is there, is keep the revenue coming in from diverse streams. So you can always stay in the deep water.
100%.
So we got a couple minutes left, but I was curious. You mentioned boutique hotels. Are you a fan? Do you know Rich Summers? He's got like a boutique hotel, like investing group. And he's a big guy on the West Coast that does that. Have you listened to him?
So yeah, I follow him on Instagram. I've seen a few of his podcasts, and there's another guy at Lake Diley, I believe. He just came on the scene maybe a year ago. I met him at STR WealthCon last week, and super cool guy, and he's doing some big things too.
Yeah. So the vision or the goal would be to someday have a boutique hotel? Is that something that you guys would like to do in this market or somewhere else?
To me, anywhere that makes money. Like I'm open to going all over. Obviously, as long as we have teams and connections in those areas, which with the STR space, I mean, they're all over the place. So I feel like I could establish a decent team just about anywhere. So yeah, I think having a few of those, just getting in the whole commercial space really makes sense. I mean, between it growing in equity on the income of the business rather than the real estate itself is so big. And I was speaking to a few guys this past week, and yeah, they bought their first one. They stabilized it within 18 months, and now they actually have an extra $2 million and they refinance and do it again. And it's like, you're just playing with such bigger numbers in commercial that I'm like, it has to make sense as long as you obviously do your due diligence and know what you're talking about. So I'm definitely deploying a few people in the space that I know. I'm not trying to go in it blind. Even if I have to partner up with someone, like I'm more than happy to do that on your first 1 to 2 deals.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I like that you recognize that too, because I think you're right and you're barking up the right tree. The commercial avenue in this like endeavor is the fastest way to grow because you can control the value of the asset or the group or the portfolio so much. You have so much more input and direct ability to raise the value of it with the income. So
And
that's the name of the game.
back to you. So on this deal that I'm looking at in Colorado, it's purchase price 1.7, but the kicker is the older couple trying to retire, but they're actually getting a divorce. So often, hey, they want the lump sum. They don't really want to do a seller financing type gig. How would you normally play that? Like, are you trying to get private money for the whole thing and refinance in 24 months? Or how would you typically pay that if they're wanting that lump sum and they're not open to seller financing at an amount at 1.7?
Well, you know, you have the ability, it's unique because when you have that animosity there and people want to just part ways, then sometimes lump sum is like the only way.
Sure.
One possible option could be if one of them has the means to buy out the other partner, just so you have the ability to deal directly with one. And if you could say, look, I can even help you afford to overpay, give them more than 50% because I'm going to help you make that up on your end. Because if you are getting seller finance terms, you can pay a lot more than market price or asking price because you can make that up on the back end. And it can be amenable for both parties. It doesn't need to be a situation where you're getting one over on anybody. But even if you're going to make the principal payments with a reasonable interest rate and you have a correct amortization or a reasonable term to where you could make it back up, that's one thing, you know, possibly see if there's any world where one of the people could buy out the other and then you could deal directly with them. And that incentive could be paying them more than 50%. Otherwise, private money is probably, you know, hard money is a little scary because right now in our market, it's usually 10 to 12% and they want a couple points and it's short term. And that's just, you know, in my experience, I've been caught with my pants down before financially and it's not any, I would never expose myself to that unless I had probably 3 layers deep of exit strategy as far as refinancing. And you don't want to be hot potato refinancing the money each time. But the thing is, if you have an asset that can stand on its own and or you can have a quick path to generating enough NOI to where a bank will touch it and you feel confident you can get it done in 6, 12, maybe 18 months, then hard money can be an option. And overpaying for the money just gets you into the asset. And if you can, right now, I think the biggest thing is if you were to pick up a $1.7 million boutique hotel with the 100% bonus depreciation that just came back online with the big, beautiful bill, the amount you could cost seg that property, pull back such an incredible amount of bonus depreciation, you could overpay by a couple $100,000 and still not be going backwards. So that's a big carrot to dangle to a seller to really try and incentivize them to work with you in that seller financing. And if they won't, then there's hard money. But yeah, I think that's unique. The divorce, because the other thing is they can go and you could force a partition sale through the court system. I'm not sure how that would work out there, but that can take a long time. And that's like a whole nother episode, you know?
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate it. That helps out. Like it's stuff like that, like your experience and wisdom on the whole commercial side and trying to tap in people like yourself. That's like, hey, we got these 5 options, these exit options and stuff like that is huge. And I'm excited to dive into it. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, and that's the cool thing about commercial real estate too, is if someone is like, hey, I want to buy a house like down the street and rent it out, like someone in California, an investor doesn't care about that. But if you're like, dude, I have a $1.7 million boutique hotel and I think I can get the value to 3 million in 2 years, this is how I'm going to do it. All of a sudden, it's easy to get investment capital for that because people are familiar and they're comfortable with commercial real estate and they know that the asset can stand on its own. When the time comes, if you need connections with some folks in my investor group, I'm happy to make those. But yeah, you'll be surprised, man. If you have the deal then you have what everyone else wants. And people, there's a lot of money on the sidelines. People are looking for places to put money. And if you could offer a value add and the cost segregation study, bonus appreciation, which you could distribute by virtue of K1s through like a partnership you could put together, then you've got something really attractive to shop.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch on it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Awesome. All right. So last question for you. Just we're about to wrap up, but I want to know, like, I'm a big fan of coaching and mentorship and masterminds. Obviously you are as well. I want to know like what role that has played for you in helping you become as successful as you have. And then who are some of the coaches that you look up to and are following or reading, stuff like that? You mentioned Dan Martell earlier, Cody Sanchez. Just curious who you're looking up to right now and getting information from.
Yeah, it's he's probably not even very public. There's a guy named Joe Weigel that he owns probably 5 or 6 businesses, owns an island, has a bunch of STRs, has an engineering firm, and I found him through the STR Secrets group. So that's like a very, I'm not gonna say beginner friendly, but there's a few people in there doing some bigger things. Got connected through that group. He was a coach for STR Secrets, and then he ended up branching out to do his own thing called Accelerate. So I'm in that group right now. It's just essentially an accountability pod of 4 of us plus 2 coaches, and we meet each week. So it's not some large, massive group. So he's probably been a big one right now. Obviously, Mike Shorgen in the STR space. He has the STR Secrets, and Chris Petsy is a coach there. But beyond that, I've probably spent, who knows, $100,000 on coaching in the past 4 years, but it's worth every penny. And not only the coaching, but the network it gives you. I've done so many deals with people that I met in these groups or helped them out or gotten paid. At one point, I started something called Co-Host Connect, where I was getting so good at selling leads or co-hosting leads. People were paying me $30,000 to close 5 deals for them. And I collected $200,000 in 7 days for people like, Luke, you can sell for me because no one can sell. Or most of these people are just engineers that are working a desk job that just need help. But ultimately, coaching definitely played a massive role, and I'm thankful for it. And to me, I think anyone that's really trying to do stuff big, like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, there's people that have already done it. Just get in that room and don't be afraid to pay to get inside that room.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. I think that's the moral of the story there is like, sometimes you just got to pay to play. And once you get in there, then you can foster genuine, real relationships. And that's where the magic happens. You got to get into a room where, like, your dreams is these people are already doing it. And so if you got to pay to cross that threshold, man, it's worth it all day long. It'll pay dividends.
Yeah, I think it was Cody Sanchez that said, make sure your dream is someone else's Tuesday. Like, just get in that room, and that's the fastest way to succeed. So in that to heart and hanging out with people like yourself.
Man, you're going to make me blush. Stop it, Luke. Hey, man, listen, dude, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate it. I think you brought a lot of value to our audience. And folks, if you guys are looking to get information on short-term rentals, pretty much anything within that industry or realm, Luke is definitely your go-to. If you have a property in Wilmington, or basically it sounds like anywhere, and you need a co-host, reach out to us. We'll put this on Instagram and YouTube and obviously Spotify and iTunes. So if you guys want to learn more about Luke and Kolk Homes, what's the website they can find you at?
Yeah, KolkHomes.com, I believe. Yep.
Okay. And are you on any other social channels or anything you want to mention?
Yeah, Instagram's a big one. We're on Kolk Homes. At Kolk Homes that should be the major 2.
Awesome. Well, folks, you heard it here first. Thanks for tuning in. This is Christian Cardamone, the Build Better Blueprint. That's Mr. Luke Kolk, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Christian.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.